Welcome to Fandoms, a show from every fan's point of view, brought to you by the Nerd Initiative Network. Here's your hosts, Tony and Michael.
Well, I guess we should bring each other on at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's going
on? So welcome to Fandoms Episode 11. We decided this week we were going to go ahead and talk about Funko Pops. And really interesting how this kind of progressed from one thing to another. And as we, progress on the show, we are definitely going to be sharing that with you guys. So maybe we should start off with Mickey's education of Funko before we
Professor CWK.
Hold on a second. My audio won't say something.
Testing. Hello.
It's pushing back. I might have to wear my headphones. We'll see how it goes. All right, so let's just go ahead and let's do the history first.
What's up to all the fans, geeks, and nerds joining us today? I see a few new faces out there, so allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mickey, also known as Professor CWK, that's Cell Phone Wallet Keys, here at Fandoms U. Fandoms U is a place where we explore the history, sometimes science, of some of the most interesting and popular fandoms there are. And today has a much more recent history, Funko. It's highly improbable that you could mention Funko in a public space today and not get a response. It's kind of a big deal. Funko has taken the world by storm as a pop culture, toys, and collectibles company, known primarily for its vinyl figures designed after popular movies, TV shows, video games, comic books, and more. Funko is one of the most recognizable names in entertainment thanks to partnerships with Disney, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, just to name a few. Funko's history is a fascinating one, growing from a small garage-based company to a major player in the industry that is beloved worldwide. Funko was founded in the Snohomish, Washington garage of Mike Becker and his wife Claudia in 1998. Mike had become frustrated with the affordability of the collectibles he loved, in particular a vintage Big Boy coin deck. That would lead Mike to license the Big Boy image and product himself to make his very own bobblehead. That means Funko only exists because of Big Boy, right? Kind of. After releasing the very own line of Funko Wacky Wobblers, there would be some failed partnerships between cartoon characters and licensing issues that would leave them in debt. But enter an unlikely hero.
Irresistible to women, deadly to his enemies, a legend in his own time.
That's right, Funko would land the licensing rights to Austin Powers, of all things. They would release a line of Wacky Wobbler bobbleheads for the movie franchise, and it was a success. They sold over 80,000 units. This gave Funko a chance to endure. Funko's popularity would grow from there, adding to their character roster and growing out their Wacky Wobbler line. In 2005, Becker would sell the company to his CCO, Brian Mariotti. Brian would move the Funko offices to Linwood, Washington, and significantly expand the amount of licensed products. It was here they would introduce their first popular line of fantastic classics, which weren't bobbleheads, but statues that featured classic cartoon characters. Funko was now a healthy, growing company that was ever expanding its list of collaborations and partnerships, including Marvel, Star Wars, and Star Trek. And they would find great success in 2008 with the release of Funko Force, the predecessor to what we know today as Funko Pops. Funko was really starting to take off and becoming a staple in the convention community, which would lead us to a pop culture collecting revolution in 2010. SDCC would be ground zero for Funko Force 2.0, which would eventually be rebranded as Funko Pop Vinyls. These cute little vinyl figures were smaller and more conceptualized than their predecessor, Funko Force. And the SDCC exclusive line featured exclusively DC characters, most famously Batman and Green Lantern. And ever since that, there was nowhere to go but up, as Funko has become a company that is anything but small and cute. Well, it might still be cute. Funko is now a juggernaut in the pop culture and collectibles industry, and not just here in the US, but around the world, as they have a presence in over 100 countries. Funko has maintained that relevance and growth by expanding beyond vinyl figures and including a wide variety of products. This includes plush toys, keychains, apparel, and even board games. Funko has already left a huge mark on pop culture history, and with the massive amount of content being produced by Disney, Warner Brothers, anime, and various other fandoms, it is going to be relevant for years to come. All right. Before you rush out of the door, I want you to remember to dust off your pops and their display shelves and prepare for your test on 20th century action figures. Enjoy the rest of the show and have a great night.
That is an excellent recap.
And a very positive one.
Yes.
It might be the most positive we are. No, we're so let's preface this first. If you look behind us, we are Funko collectors. We like Funkos. You can see I have my 18-inch.
I have a huge wall of Funkos right
there. Baby Rothman has got an extensive collection already before even leaving the womb.
Also, this is kind of a cool look at this angle. This is a nice little angle.
That would be a good angle to be able to like do for videos where you have like the little box of something that pops up next to you. But so we decided, in fact, it was Michael, it was your idea to talk about Funko for this episode. We just, not too long ago did Lego, and so it's kind of a nice kick of talking about things that you love, but doing research kind of brought some things.
Never meet your heroes. Never meet your heroes.
Yeah, or research the things that you like, or love. And so we want to preface before we get started. We collect things, but it's interesting to know, let's say, more truth behind things that go on. And of course, it's always whenever you talk about capitalism or corporate decision making, there will be things that you may not necessarily like. So
yeah, I think it's becoming more and more prevalent, right? Like, I think maybe it's a Gen Z thing. I'm a millennial, or I think I am. I have no idea. Whatever. It's becoming a Gen Z thing to know about and care about what the company you're buying from stands for, right? And I agree. Like, again, I was never one to, because I think capitalism is an interesting. It's an interesting cycle, and it's a very I'll preface this because there's going to be a lot of. Are we going to be judgmental? Yes. I'm sorry. We have to be. When you dump $30 million of Funkos into a landfill that will take a century to decompose. Yes. Centuries. Sorry. Apologies. Yes. So we're going to be judgmental. But again, I have to preface that with saying running a business is a very slippery slope, right? We know. We know. And especially when you make a product, and what do you do and how do you navigate the rules that are put in place? And I guess to sum up Funko, and this is a first for me, I'm going to be really short. Funko's probably telling people don't hate the player, hate the game right now. And we'll go into details about why that is and stuff like that. But yeah, we're going to be critical. So it's good but honest. We're not going to be ranting or raving or whatever. We're going to be honest and upfront and just kind of, what's going on.
So to preface this a little bit, I think with the title that we have for this show, and the thumbnail art is going to change a little bit as well. The question then becomes: is Funko the next Beanie Baby? And if you don't, let's say you make us feel old. You don't know what a Beanie Baby is. I mean, they're still there, but they're not the brand recognition that they were. Let's say in the mid to early 90s. TY or Ty, however you want to pronounce it, made a brand of very basic, and I think that's the key to both of these companies, very basic animal-based stuffed animal, bean-filled stuffed animals, and they ended up getting the licensed rights to do a lot of different things. They did the Princess Diana bears. They had bears of different styles. There was supposed to be an exclusivity. And for a time, the Beanie Babies, depending on which ones you had and which series, were very expensive. And it was a market where you would even see grown men, buying. And again, I don't say that in a negative way, because there are grown men that are bronies that love like My Little Ponies and everything else. But there were the people that, regardless of age, gender, anything, they were collecting these toys for the purpose of wanting to be able to say, I mean, there were people who thought that they would save up their inheritance by collecting Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
And like their college bills. I remember I have family members that said that, like, I've got this bear. And I remember even like when we got like, I had some, and I remember like we would get them to give away for kids and stuff. And you'd get like the Princess Diana bear and think, oh, this is a big deal. And really it wasn't, it just didn't last. And so today, TY still does the Beanie Babies. They still sell them, but not at the extent of what they were before. And they definitely don't have the same value as they did before.
So I think, look, I this is a really good, oh, Erica's blowing up in the comments. This is a really good, this is a good thing to start off with, right?
Yeah.
It's called manufactured scarcity. It never works. I'm just going to say this. It never, ever, 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 ever works. The reason I don't consider myself an expert in collectibles, but I travel in the same circles as experts. So I'm expert tangential, right? Have friends that work at auction houses. I study a lot. I do, as you can tell, I do collect a lot. And I think, look, I make the same mistakes everyone else does, and I don't collect. I collect for fun. You know, do I sell things to buy other things? Sure, but I don't collect to like retire. Like it's not. You can't plan like that. I think unless you're really, it's very, very rare and very, very hard. Look, the reason so many things across history, and specifically American history, are valuable are because of natural events that you can't predict. Comic books, pre-code horror or even post-code horror, there were, and this is shout out to Ashley Cotter Cairns at Golden Auctions who told me the story. And I think you can read it and find it. There were comic book burnings that happened during the 50s before the code, where adults thought that comic books were ruining the innocence of children. So you had so many books that were burned, like it crawls my skin. Action Comics 1, Detective 27, like all these amazing, valuable books. And would they still be worth a lot? Absolutely. First Superman, first Batman, 100%. But these are things you can't predict. Baseball cards.
Yeah.
Valuable baseball cards, right? I'm a kid of the 90s. Valuable baseball cards were valuable because kids in the 60s put them in their damn bike spokes to like hear the so you had a Mickey Mantle rookie and a bike spoke. You had things like that. And the last one I'll say is, and I can go on and on, there's things you can't like predict. Honus Wagner is one of the best stories of all time. Do you know that story or no?
I don't think I know this.
It's a great story. Okay. Honus Wagner, easily one of the most valuable baseball cards in existence. I think there's only I think they find, one here and there every couple of years. I think Wayne Gretzky used to own the most valuable one. It was like the best condition, but this is decades ago. Worth millions, right? Honus Wagner is a Hall of Fame player. He's no Mickey Mantle. He's no Babe Ruth. What happened was, though, and this is a throwback, before there was bubble gum and then now collector cards were put into tobacco dipping pouches. And so Honus Wagner, and this is how the story goes, and who knows if this is, this is 100 years ago, basically went to the manufacturing and had him shut down the printing of his rookie card, because he did not want to push tobacco onto kids.
Oh, wow.
And so for a while there were maybe 5 or 6 in existence, these cards, because some got out. And another Ashley Cotter Cairns ism is that anything that's like an error or a manufacturing mistake should not be in existence. So if you can see it, you can find it. There's Venom Lethal Protector without the ink on it. There's double covers and triple covers. Like those are all mistakes.
You just made me think of one too.
They're supposed to be destroyed.
Right.
And if they're not, they're rare, and someone either snuck them out or just like, oh, I'll take it home with me. Those are natural, organic things that happen, and that's what creates value. And obviously the ability, if it's a Tom Brady, he's the GOAT. If it's, on and on, Michael Jordan, like these are things that add to value. But again, come back to my original statement, then I'll shut up. One more thing and I'll shut up. You cannot manufacture scarcity and value. And when you do that, and Beanie Baby actually got, if I'll choose my words carefully because of what's going on currently, a piece of media that tells a story about Beanie Babies recently explained that basically they got popular by being scarce and saying they were scarce. And so what happened was, yeah, they're cute, they're fun, and it created a craze, and they flamed out because they weren't scarce.
Yeah.
Now there still are. Like, I think the Princess Diana one is still worth a good amount of money.
Not a lot. Not really. We had two at one point, and they weren't worth it.
Wow.
Like it's I think that's the whole thing. It's the feigned scarcity. Okay, so let's talk about like Funko. I think this is the thing. Like Funko,
Yeah,
Funko had two different types of issues when it came to, let's say, in recent, because like when we talk about recently, we're not talking about the old, the old wobble heads or the original Funko lines where before they actually got the pop vinyl branding. We're talking about recent Funko Pops that are now 30 million to 36 million dollars worth in a landfill, and it was because they would overproduce certain Funkos. I mean, you go to GameStop, you go to Target, you're going to find some Funko Pops in the clearance section. It's just going to happen because certain lines, and I don't want to talk about certain movie properties that did well versus others. They don't know. And there were even times where Funko, for some properties of recent, they had the ability to make them before they came out in streaming, and they chose not to because they thought it would flop. And now they scramble to get something done. And so there is this idea that there are some that they do in limited qualities, others that they don't. And they literally had these overflow Funko Pops because they couldn't move them in Arizona storage units. And they had them in so many units. I mean, you think $36 million worth of Funko Pops. I know collectors, they don't have that many units to fill that many Funko Pops, and they can't move them. They're paying for these rental units, and now it's cutting into their budget. Imagine how much they're paying in rent that it's cutting into their profit with the amount of stuff that they're selling with Funko and Loungefly and now Mondo and all this other stuff. And instead of investing in a charity or just giving them away or selling them for cheap or even doing another mystery box to get these basic Funkos out there, they destroy them and throw them into a landfill.
Let's throw that picture up there. I don't even know what to say. I mean, we're I guess we're Tarantinoing the story, right? So we're gonna like literally just kick it off with the conclusion. But there's so many thoughts and opinions with this. I'm gonna get emotional. Like, you are destroying. I mean, I'm not a tree hugger, but you're destroying the earth, for one. But two, like, we were talking about this earlier. We were going over this. It's all for a tax write-off. It's all about company and company greed. And I think that is the problem there, because, we were trying to figure it out. Like, yes, I'm having a baby in a month, and we had a CPR class recently. We're prepping as well as we can prep, right? We want to make sure we're fully prepared. And, our instructor talked to us about the Good Samaritan law. And he was saying that, for a while, people were afraid to go help someone if they were choking in public or doing something because, say I crack a rib while I'm trying to give you the Heimlich, or I don't know how to do the Heimlich. So like, I might be wrong there, but if I hurt you somehow, it's the same thing as like, if what's the rule? Like, if I break into your house and you shoot me or something like that, or I hurt myself sometime.
If I break into your house and let's say I fall down the stairs,
this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So I can sue you. So yeah, oh, it's cool. Like, I'm just trying to rob you and stuff, but the law is there. So basically here, look, the Good Samaritan law is to help people. So that way they don't fear if I see you choking or see something happen to you or heart attack, like giving you CPR or whatever. Yeah. The fact that, I was looking for excuses online of like why they would do this. Right. And I think lawsuits is is debatable, right? We were talking about this, and it is debatable. Like, you know, some people have said that, like, you know, if a kid chokes on a piece and there's, you know, can they get sued for donating it to, you know, I don't know. I don't know if there's like an unwritten contract for when you buy merchandise, and it's a different than if you donate it. But the laws need to, this is an example, and I don't want to get political too often, but this is an example where the laws need to change ASAP. Like, this is insane. Like, that they can't like give it to kids that want it or donate them to schools as education part. Like, this is a vinyl piece of plastic. And I love Funkos, like, absolutely love them. This is one of my favorite ones, you know, Peter 3 signed, like, and this is, again, we'll get into this later about a reason why I do think these will last longer than Beanie Babies and other things for the autograph and collectible value. There's other things, and much like 90s comics are still, even though they're mass produced like crazy, they're still in demand because you can get Jim Lee to sign your X-Men 1 or McFarlane to sign your Spider-Man 1, and there's a million copies out there. But back to the Funkos, those things will not, they're plastic. They are not going to degrade for centuries. I just, and even their response to it. So wait, we have like information here that we've been like digging into. Even their response makes me cringe, you know, like that, like, I think they asked the original founder, you know, he still works for the company as like, he's like a creative officer and he was like, Becker was like, basically, that's not my, you know, my job is just to focus on the fun and task at hand. And I understand the politics of like wanting to play it safe, but I haven't seen any comment where they're like, they feel guilty for doing this.
Yeah. And that is completely just avoiding the responsibility of it. Let's go back. You think of Toys for Tots. You think of different charities, even for like children's hospitals and Make-A-Wish and things like that. There are companies that donate products and they don't worry about being. This is about a decision, and it's about the easiest course. We were talking before for the Super Bowl. Two teams are going up from the Super Bowl, and you don't know which one's going to win. So what do? They print championship team merchandise to sell after the show or after the game immediately, and they have it ready so that they can hand it out.
Yeah.
But if you go into other countries, and it's funny because I've had friends that have gone, and let's say it was the Cowboys versus the Reds, you know, the Redskins, or the Washington team. Let's say Washington won, the Cowboys didn't. In some parts of the country, in some parts of the world, there are a lot of people who think that the Cowboys won the Super Bowl because that merchandise was then donated or given to other countries or sold off in other places, because they're not just trying to destroy the merchandise. There are lots of high-end places. I was watching a video recently, in I think it was in New York, I think, where someone was walking down the street and there were just boxes of Vans shoes on the sidewalk, and they went in to go look, and they had actually cut all of those shoes. Couldn't have given them to the homeless. And I think what happens is, when you get so big as a corporation, you get blinded. Yeah. And you don't care about other people, and
there's no emotion in it. It's all shares. And by the way, I'll ask you a question. Do you know why they do that? The cutting?
So that people can't take them and then go resell them.
So I got to pull up a photo here. I love doing this in real time, but I got this story actually from Al Milgrom, Marvel legend. And, you know, it goes on and on, created Spot, Moon Knight, and more and more. But he was telling me about comics. If you ever see a comic that has, and I saw an Incredible Hulk recently with it. It was comics cover cut. So Marvel, and then other places too. How do I gotta look this up? They would ask for the newsstands and the pharmacies. I'm getting a picture now. If they didn't sell them, they would require them to rip the cover in half and send them back. Wow. And so you will find really iconic. There was a Hulk 1. This is a, you know, $20,000, $30,000 book that is on is it Heritage or it's one of those auction houses. So here's another example. See the Batman is perfectly ripped at the top.
Mm-hmm.
This classic, either detective or Batman. I can't tell what book this is. But it's such a shame. And so Al Milgrom was telling me that like the pharmacy that he used to get as a kid, his comics from, in the 60s, they would sometimes do it, but they would sometimes also just give the comics out to kids. And I think he got like an Amazing Fantasy 15 for free because she was just like, oh, we couldn't sell this here, or Fantastic Four 1 or whatever.
Well, it was like so I used to work at Starbucks, and Starbucks has pastries and they have like a shelf life for their food, and you weren't supposed to take food, you weren't supposed to give it to the staff. You like, if you're working there, you're not, like, if there's a marble loaf cake, you can't take it to your car. But the way they got around it was that you had to take it to the trash can. What you did after you went to the trash can was up to you. But they were afraid that staff would then hide product to be expired and then take it home and then either eat it or sell it. And it was sad because if you ever go to a Starbucks, there are always people that are hungry, and you couldn't necessarily, give it to them. The best you could do would be you put it out as like demo, and you could go and hand it out to people as a sample to encourage them to get it. And that was what a lot of places would do. But yeah, I mean, even if you go into Walmart, if you've ever walked into Walmart and you've ever walked when there's like, I'm not going to talk about a specific, but like a promotion for a movie that is about to go out on Blu-ray or DVD, there would be some amazing artwork. And if you asked to buy it from them, they wouldn't let you do it. They actually have to go in the back and destroy it. They have to put it in trash compactors. And so there was a specific starship that I saw hanging from the ceiling that I would love to have had in this room when I was just doing all different stuff. And they were going to take it and rip it up and destroy it. And it's sad to think of that kind of stuff happening, but it does.
I think a lot of stuff in America, right, is a vestige of something before. And what I mean by vestige is it's a carryover, a grandfather clause. Like, there's a lot of stuff look, we are dynamic, creative, curious creatures, humans, right? But we also tend to kind of just let things lie, and we don't question a lot of things, and which is why I love that we're doing this. And like, again, this is the point of being truthful. And I think there's stuff that just happens, and there's some stuff that look, I will correct me if I'm wrong, come at me if like whatever. But I think some stuff is just literally done because that's the way it is. And people don't ask questions and say, what can we do? How can we change? Whatever. With that said, probably should go into like, what is the future of Funko? And like the question we posed is the Beanie Babies thing. Cause like the first thing I would say is like, look, this isn't an overnight thing. And why we have mad money on here is this. The worst IPO in decades was Funko. And this is 2017. So this is years before landfill gate, right? Like, so it has been a rough patch. And I think, do they have a little bit of the Beanie Baby in them? Yeah, I think they're more versatile than Beanie Babies. I still think there's going to be valuable Funkos. There still are valuable Funkos. I mean, look, let's get nuts. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. My Lord. The Wacky Wobbler is obviously the prototype of 4, which is really cool. I mean, Derek was in the chat saying about the Iron Man one, and then, there's this one for $25K. There's this thing one, which is really cool. I think it's about 4,000. That is super cool. But I think, as you stop to innovate, you stop innovating. And I think we talked about, you mentioned Loungefly. They purchased a couple years ago, which is, great backpacks. I know you're a big fan, backpacks and accessories and t-shirts and really cool dynamic edition. And then they picked up Mondo, right? And I think Mondo was, now this is 3 or 4 years after the IPO. Mondo was last year. The IPO tanked a couple years ago. I think they were still on the rise in 2017, but they picked up Mondo, and what they did was essentially lay off a ton of the workforce, right? This is what happens. And look, it's capitalism at its best. I'm not going to sit here and rant, whatever, that you pick up a company and you lay off a bunch of employees, which is what they did. But Mondo, and this is where we have to talk about specifically, like, again, quality, value, and letting things organically happen, right? Mondo, no, this is by the way, this is from Mariotti, who is the CEO. Mondo created artist-made limited edition posters. So let's take this off real quick and put me back here. I can even give myself a little bit, maximize myself so you can see. I'm a fan of Bottleneck Gallery. So if you see the Spider-Man poster there, actually that the one above my left shot right there, that's a Mondo poster right there, that No Way Home. And I think I think Bottleneck is the Batman. And what I want to say about this is these can be valuable. And as Mariotti was saying, let me minimize myself. It's god awful to see myself in living color. Mariotti talked about, he's like, oh, look, I'm not a big fan of exclusivity. I think we're in an era of exclusivity. And everyone's trying to cash in on, like, there's only 1,000 pieces or only this or only that, whatever. But I don't buy this, where he says that, Mondo was making limited edition prints and they wanted to up the numbers to get more fans involved. Now, that might be somewhat the case, but the reason why Mondo was making limited edition prints is because they were like being hand silkscreened by artists. So they would make 150 to 200, and Bottleneck still does that. They're all numbered. Every time you buy
quality over quantity.
Yeah, and they come, a lot of times they come from the artist. And like, I have a bunch of art from Pablo Oliveira, who has one of my favorites, and he will communicate with, like, he's involved in the production of his prints. I'm looking over there, like a lenticular lens Avengers Endgame with like Iron Man and Thanos, and there's a really cool Spider-Man up here, and this is Dan Mumford, who's one of my favorites. But they're on social, they're dealing with it, they reshare the postings. Like, it's not like they just sell the license, they move on. They're part of the process of production. A lot of the times they deliver it to these galleries, and the galleries ship it off to the customers. Now, if you create 300, 400, 500, 600 prints, and you do the time prints, and for those who don't know, and I'm rambling, but I'm going to get to a point, time prints give you, like, hey, you can order throughout the weekend. It's not till we sell out. So if we sell 10,000, we sell 10,000. Yeah. The artist is not, I mean, how is the artist going to make that many? And so again, you're eliminating almost like the manufactured scarcity. Now you're doing manufactured extremism. And
here's the thing, do they even change the price? Are they still selling it for the same amount?
Same price, yeah, 50, 60 bucks, whatever it is. Yeah, they don't change the price. And I don't know, I'm telling you, there's no way a even great artist, like if you look at John Beatty, who's very involved in the circuit, or Clayton Crane, or I said Clayton Crane, I'm just looking at a poster. Anyone that's involved, they don't have the ability, they don't have printing presses in their houses, like to mass produce. So they're going to have to outsource it, and the quality is going to decrease. So what's my point, right? They bought Loungefly, they bought Mondo, they opened up and you've been here, so I want to hear about this too, like a 40,000 square foot store in Hollywood, their second storefront. It looks phenomenal. I've seen your photos. It looks amazing. It's really cool. But it's also like, okay, what is the demand? Because we're coming off a huge 2021 where, there was revenge spending in the economy, and companies had to know that 2022 and 2023, there was going to be a dip back to normal. Like, you had sneakers at Nike and Jordan, you had Funkos, you had comics. Oh, people that bought really expensive comics in 2021 are kicking themselves, because again, that was like an all-time collecting high. And what is the final outcome? Funko stock is like, so it's like 70% value loss. Now, they also, by the way, they also invest in NFTs, and I have not seen, I mean, NFTs are, talk about a fad that went, and I still believe in the future of the idea, but everyone was getting on board. I don't think they knew what they were doing. So where do they go from here? I honestly don't know. Like, the lightning in the bottle thing is kind of gone. They've bought other companies to try to expand. They really have a robust selection of things. And I love Funkos. My favorite thing are the moments, which basically tell a story. And like Hulk versus Hulkbuster, and like
Yeah.
that. I love these things, but what I don't. You tell me, what do you do from this point? Where do you go?
So fresh in my mind, we talked about Lego before. If you watch a run of Lego, if I were to take and move my microphone over here, and you can look up here, you can see I have the Daily Bugle.
Yep.
Right there. Through the amount of times everyone was enamored when it first came out, supply and demand, it would sell out. It was back ordered. It was whatever else. Lego has manufacturing where when they sold out of it, as long as it was within the run of the product being out, it could be back ordered, and Lego would then turn around and produce more. So Funko, instead of building this large amount, and let's face it, the whole Mondo thing about it's unfair that there's limited quantities, then you don't do chases, you don't do Funko exclusives.
Yes.
You don't do those things. You create a run. And if it runs out, make more. Do them in batches and have them. And yes, then there's exclusivity if you want to, because then there's the first printing, the second printing, or whatever. And you only make enough to where you don't have overflow stock. You do build, you out of the process of being responsible, you build exclusivity and scarcity to where people want it. And then maybe you hold off on producing more, but you can't just turn around and say, oh, it's not fair that only so many people get it, when I can tell you right now, if you were to look at the one, what was it? One Piece, the Always Sunny, or the Going Merry ships, they're extremely expensive now.
Oh yeah.
There are the New York Comic-Con exclusives. There's the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, like those things. I mean, Lego's done it. They've done it with like minifigs, like during SDCC. I mean, have variations. And even if it was a concern about the like we were talking about, like the comic book shops or the pharmacies tearing the covers because people will turn around and resell them. Imagine if they took the time with those items that were in that rental facility, or their storage units, that they took and they marked the boxes and the Funkos with like a symbol that identified that they were charity products.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I read somewhere also that they which really kind of, again, I'm not trying to crap on a company because I love Funko.
Listen, I've got an 18-inch Groot right behind me.
Yeah.
I thought about getting the 18-inch All Might. I've got way too many of my.
I love the comic covers. I think these are some of the coolest things ever.
That's funny. Hold on a second.
Love comic covers. Like, for those who don't know, these are, again, I think the trick is to, let me turn the light off so you can see it. The trick is to innovate, right? And so the comic covers,
yeah,
I love them. I think they tell a story. They're compact. They can sit on a ledge, and they're really cool. And I mean, look, the guy who did this cover, Sam De La Rosa. When we go to NYCC, you're gonna have to do this. Like, he'll draw Venom on the front, at a convention and stuff. Like, it's great. I love it. Mm-hmm. You have to go by innovation. I think Lego has a history of, look, Funko is 20 something years old, right? And I think, there's Beanie Babies, there's Trolls, there's those things that have just, the Pet Rock even made $1 million at one point in history. Like, those things are flash in the pan. They're up, they're down, they're gone. Like, people still have them. I'm not knocking them, whatever. Lego has one. I think it's a family-owned company. I think it's, we had Kofi on here who works there, talking about the history. He really, sings their praises. So clearly they treat the employees right. They're run really well, and everyone has ups and downs, but they've innovated. They've come out with different things. And like you said, you got to let the natural selection of supply and demand take its course. And when you start to do stuff to either boost sales or to lower scarcity, that's when you get into trouble. You're just trying to manipulate the market. The house always wins. And the house is evolution and natural things. Like, and the reason, so people are probably wondering if if they're even wondering at all, why did I pull this comic book up, right? And we were talking about like exclusives and stuff. This is a book that was handed out at D23 last year. It's the Spider-Man 16th anniversary. Now, you had to be in a panel to get it. It's a somewhat valuable book. Not like it's not going to break the bank or anything like that. It's not a $4,000 wacky wobbler, but I think it's a really cool book. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and it's cool. And it's an Humberto Ramos cover. One of my favorite artists. This is a remark, by the way. Like, no one does better remarks in the game than Humberto. Like, the guy is a master, and he really takes pride in his craft. He's so talented and cool. But Humberto, like, what was I going to say? Basically, like, there's only a couple thousand out there. You had to be at a panel. You couldn't buy them. They're worth, a decent amount. And that's how Funko really got big. Mickey mentioned it. He said, San Diego was like their big kickoff. They were they announced these are really cool. They announced also that one has like battle scars on it. They announced the precursor to the original Pop, which is, man, that would be cool to have. It's probably worth a lot. And there's the wacky wobblers, but like with those, you had to be at San Diego to get them. So if you want to create scarcity, make things that you have to be there to get. There's nothing wrong with that, because look, people are going, and what happened this year at San Diego, me and Yassine were there, were the Funko Pop cards. Now I'm starting to like not feel as bad that I didn't get my hands on those, because they look super cool. And they're just these cards that are basically to pick Funkos. Like, it's exactly what you think it was. And, they're still kind of sitting on websites now. You can buy a box and crack them. And I'm sure you get like original art and some other cool stuff that's, maybe there's hologram. I don't know what's the chase cards that are in there, but they're really cool. But it's, and I'm glad they're innovating and trying different things, but you got to create stuff that you had to be there to get. I mean, that's the way to really that's the organic way to make scarcity. Again, look, I'm a big guy of auctions. I love looking. I'm not always buying, but I'm always kind of like looking and seeing what's out there, because it's history, right? Like, Babe Ruth signed balls, or we talked about the Honus Wagner, or we talk about, the Jordan flu game shoes, that he gave to the ball boy. Like, those are, I mean, they're like one of one, right? But you had to be lucky and be there to get, catching a foul ball, getting it signed by Babe Ruth. Like, geez, like, that stuff is, and anything signed by Babe Ruth is super valuable, but it's so cool because it's like very limited, and it's like stuff that happens in life. Yeah. And when you start to kind of, I don't know, you kind of go beyond
it's like the screen use props. It's like, I think what it comes down to is, there are lots of collectors out there that have to get every single piece for the set. I guess one of the things that I've always benefited is we shared this on the Discord. I was not a big fan of Funko. Like, I was a Hot Toys collector. I liked the idea of prop replicas and things like that. I liked big scale things, and Funko was not on my radar. And I kept ones that I got out of respect. I had, a friend give me one, and then my mom bought me another, and that was all I had. And then I had a follower that sent me the, you can't see him right now, but he's right behind me. It's the Endgame Stanley right there. Cause I was talked up Stanley. Yeah. I love him. And so I thought that was really cool and unique. And then it was the cap, the old man cap with the shield that I have still in the box. And at that point I was like, you know what? There's actually some really neat ones. I'd really love to get some of the really interesting ones, like this Doctor Strange I thought was really cool. And then when we were at C2E2, I had to get the suit of Gantry Tony.
That's cool.
So I like the uniqueness of things, but I don't have to have every single one. Let's say it this way. I'm a big anime fan right now. And one of the shows I'm watching is Hunter x Hunter. And I went into a Five Below yesterday, and they had Hunter x Hunter Funko Pops, and immediately perked my interest, but I didn't see any of the characters that I would have wanted. And yeah, they were cheap, but you know what? I'd rather have the ones that I want. So it was an easy pass for me. And there are the hard collectors, and I think that there's a good number of them, but not to the extent that Funko wants. There's a lot more casual Funko Pop collectors than there are the hardcore, let's say Blake's Pop Nook, like Marvel Twin Rihanna or Tonin, like where they have the shelves and shelves of them. And I think that's where they have to understand it's better to make limited runs and then need to go back and create more. Back in the 80s, Masters of the Universe was one of the most popular things. They started as a toy line, and then in order to get people to sell to want to buy them, they put comic books inside the actual action figure packaging to get them interested in a story. And then they also created a cartoon for the specific purpose of selling the toys. But at one point, near the end of the rise and fall of He-Man and the Master of the Universe, the manufacturers were just producing what was easy for them to make. And so if you go back and look, there's this B action figure that there are millions of them that they couldn't move. Like at one point you couldn't find He-Man. All you could find was this side character because it was the easiest and the cheapest thing to make. And they stopped caring about it being a product, and it just kind of went the way of the dinosaur. So Funko's got to be willing to allow for people to just casually purchase things. And again, I love, when we had this conversation, I was wanting to say, like, are you an in the box collector? Are you an out of the box collector? What are your thoughts on this or that? But it's like, as a company, it's very interesting, because if you go back and you look, and there are documentaries, which I'm not going to point to because of the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes, but you could go and see that there were actual like conventions for Funko fans where they had like this, it was its own thing where you'd go in this room and it was like a big game show and big event, and like people were hardcore collectors. But now it's become something very different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've got to change your direction. And yes, it means you produce less. We went to Funko Hollywood. It was an amazing experience going in there, and going in there itself was an event. That there was that one. There was a giant like Thanos on the throne. They had if you see the current thumbnail on this, there's the Jurassic Park T-Rex coming chasing the Jeep, and you can sit in the Jeep, or you can sit in the land speeder, and it became an experience to go and do that. They have to lean into those things. They have to lean into
I agree. It's
hard.
hard.
It's like the pop yourself stuff, like something different and unique. That's where their gold is. It's not on this mass production to where it leads to landfills and everything else. Like,
I just think I get upset, and I'm going to take the positive spin on it, because I think they're better than this. I think, you look at Beanie Babies, there's a storied history behind there where there's a lot of drama and stuff in there. And by the way, Ty is actually named after the founder. And he, for all intents and purposes, from what's out there, he wasn't a very good guy. And I think like, they're scamming the audience. And I think there's a lot to like and a lot to love. And like I said, something that will endure that you can't do with a lot of things. And the reason like that comics, we have graded comics and things like that, and people are grading Funkos. I think that's insane, because it's so hard to keep the box. Like, that's nuts. But I do think there's something to be said about the ability to, they're very versatile in the sense that you can sign, you can put stuff on there. I just sent in something for, I have so this is the Hulkbuster versus Hulk. I have it's a smaller moment. It's Hulk, hurting Loki in Avengers, like crashing against the thing. And I sent it in for the Hiddleston signing, and I had him put a quote like, "I'm a god, you dull creature." Like, that's fun to tell a story and do something original and do something different. And I think, again, like I mentioned before, the comic covers too, you can get cool stuff done. So they're versatile, right? They're not, they're not a one-trick pony. But I think that's why I think we get annoyed the most, is like, it's like, look, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed in you. Like that's the feeling of, for Brian Mariotti and all these guys. Like, did you guys have to do that for a $30 million tax credit? Wasn't that really necessary? And look, let's go through the numbers. Like it might be necessary. They had a horrible 2022. Their net income decreased over 100%. They were sitting on $250 million in debt. And so I also wonder, like, how are you running your company? And like, I always wonder for all these companies out there, did you not see this coming after 2021? Like you guys are, I say you guys, executives and people that run companies out there. And I'm not trying to be, again, I'm not, my wife's going to kill me, whatever. I'm going on a rant. It's fine. How do people not plan? COVID hit in 2020. Everyone was stuck saving money. They were at home. They couldn't travel. They couldn't go to restaurants. It was very hard to buy. Then, The Last Dance came out, right? And it got me. I was a Bulls fan growing up, and Jordan's literally went whoop, like Jordan sneakers, Jordan rookies, everything went through the roof, and everyone was collecting and using, the people they joke around and say like the stimmy checks were out there and people were like buying, stuff they whatever.
Oh, at the same time, it was like GPUs for computers.
Yeah,
everyone was into the Bitcoin mining, and so you couldn't find a video card, of any good quality because everyone was
hard to
buying
find
them.
But like, how did you not prepare after 2021 sets records, in every single category? That's not sustainable. Like, people at home were buying, and then 2022 or no, sorry, that was 2020, and then 2021 came along. And, like I said earlier, the revenge spending happened. People had extra money, or they were like pent up and they were at home and they couldn't go to restaurants. They couldn't go travel. They couldn't go on cruises. They couldn't go anywhere. And they were like, I'm going to spend money. I'm going to buy the comic I've always wanted. I'm going to buy the Funko I've always wanted. I'm going to buy a pair of Jordan 1s that are worth $1,000. I'm going to, whatever. Once that slows down and that impulse dies down, things have to get back to normal. And so if I was a company and we had, say, record sales in 2021, and look here, another double standard in here, like someone had a really good point about CGC, right? So we talk a lot about CGC. They're the grading company that creates, verifies the autographs and encases the comics and in this and grades, they were supposed to be a grader, right? Like they grade the comics, right? There's only so many comics out there that people want graded. After a while, your clients start to have what they want. And so you have to adapt and figure it out. But I just feel like there was very little planning from these companies, from Funko, from CGC, things like that. CGC is leaning into autographs now. They're doing more and more like send in signings. I just wish there would be planning. So that way, like we don't end up with this.
Yeah.
Order less inventory, be like, hey, it's not the worst case scenario if we sell out and there's huge demand and we didn't create to expectations.
Exactly.
That's not the worst thing in the world. You make more, like you said, you make more. And the last thing I want to say before I pass off to you and then we wrap up, you mentioned first and second printings earlier, right? The best example I could think of, I was grabbing photos while we were talking, is the first appearance of Professor Hulk, right? First printing is this beautiful cover, green background. And again, this is again organic rarity. Oftentimes the second printings are rarer than the first. This is the second printing. It is more expensive and harder to find than the first printing. But that's cool. That is something that if you're a collector later on, you're like, ooh, I kind of want that. It's a cool cover. It's a different thing, gets you. It's like whatever. Another famous one is the Jim Lee, the first Batman he did, where I have the first printing. It's not worth nearly as much. And he's like Batman swinging. And the second printing is that iconic. And I think I have a statue kind of it. If you look over there, you can see by the Joker, it's him standing. That's that iconic. I'll pull up a photo of Jim Lee. It's an iconic cover. That's really valuable because it's second printing and it's hard to find. And I think that's cool. That's history. That's natural stuff.
Exactly.
Like, just let it happen, guys.
Yeah. So I think here's where we need to go with it. Like, do we think that Funko has the potential to go the way of the Beanie Baby? Absolutely. That's part of where we're bringing up here. But there also is a way ahead. Now, hopefully, the way forward is that they learn from this $30 million landfill.
Yeah, I hope so.
One, the environmental impact. Perhaps they need to look at the way that they do Funko and how they change that. Second of all is the idea of, okay, what got us into that position in the first place? Because there you go. There's that iconic. Yeah.
Iconic. That's the second printing. Because the first
Yeah.
printing's actually like, it's not the best looking cover. He's swinging through, his feet's coming at you. It's whatever. This is iconic. Like it's gorgeous. All right, sorry, continue.
No, but yeah. So learn from the environmental impact that they did from this and what got them in that position where they had that excess. Also, make a plan for how to deal with excess stock if they get to that position again. Because let's face it, anytime they delve into a property, there is always the potential for them to have a miss. Some people are just not going to want certain things. Some properties are not going to be as popular as you project. That's what Lego does. Lego hedges their bets. They're very conservative on where they go with properties when they come out. And then when they do make something that they plan, like let's say the Daily Bugle, they allow for multiple printings when it becomes that popular. But and then I also think the mentality of just passing off, like what Becker said about, I'm just here for the fun. Like, no, there is a responsibility that you have.
Oh,
You have to do.
I hate
Marriott needs to also take responsibility. And then for statements like the whole Mondo thing, if you're going to take something that was limited to 150, let's say, copies for, let's say, $60, $30 to $60, and then you turn around and start making a more subpar version at $10,000, it doesn't have the same value. And they should look at that. That doesn't mean they don't. I don't know anything about how they treat their employees. I'm not going to assume anything about that. Hopefully, Funko is a great place to work, but they should understand that their production and the way they proceed at scale is more important to be conservative than to deal with their workforce. So
I agree. I cannot agree more. I think, and 100%, Eric is like, we start a petition to get them to donate. I don't know why you wouldn't. That should be everything. I understand we talked about food earlier and like, you worry about people getting sick or poison. There's a lot of like nuances there. But can we just do the right thing? Like, and if things happen, things happen. I know people are going to take advantage, and look, it's a weird thing. But food, toys, books, like, it's good to help other people out and give people fun. Like you said, children's hospitals and things like that. Like, why would you not? Like, if I was Funko, and again, this is why I'm probably not the CEO of Funko. Like, I guess I don't have that business sense in that I wouldn't do right by the shareholders. I guess I would have taken. I think there was a lot of Harry Potter Funkos that were destroyed in the $30 million move. And there was also, by the way, I used to have them, and we did a giveaway and we gave it away. The Funko game, I guess, did not do well.
Oh, wow.
So the Funkoverse game, first of all, what sticks out to you when you say that, though? How many kids out there would like to play the Funko game?
Okay, let me tell you this. Okay, so my kid has HCM. It's out there. I've talked about it before. We go to Children's Hospital on a regular basis. The most exciting trip that my son had was when he went there and he was talking about like Sonic and Pokemon, and the nurse came and gave him like a starter pack in a little metal box of Pokemon cards. And like, that was all he talked about for a good long time. And then we went another time. It was like closer to around Christmas time as well. They didn't have that. And he had asked, like, do you have anything else cool? And, they're like, we're sorry. We're like, well, there's no apology. We're thankful for that. They said, it's really sad because a lot of times donations are really scarce for places like Children's Hospital, where these kids are going through terminal conditions or, situations. How easy would it be for them to have a stock of Funkos or Funkoverse games or whatever to be able to give to these kids after doing like an MRI or having, my kid just did a stress echo. And so he had to run on a treadmill and he was exhausted. It would have been cool to have like something like little there for him to be like, hey, you did a good job, more than just a sticker. So,
yeah, it's really annoying. It's annoying.
Yeah, it started the collection and we had way too many Pokemon cards now.
And again, like what I said earlier to start, if Funko could speak as a company, they would say like, don't hate the player, hate the game. So, what Erica said. Speak up, start a petition, talk to your, the government. I don't know, whatever that, like, there should not be tax breaks for doing this to the environment. There should not be, potential for lawsuits for donating toys to hospitals and things like that. Like,
in fact, there should be a fine for excess landfill.
Yes.
There should have been a consequence for that.
That's what I'm saying. We were talking about this before, and I know we got a wrap, but we were talking about before, like, to do this. First of all, where's Captain Planet when you need it? That was your comment and joke. But like, I remember like the shows and the stuff we used to watch where like they would dump the sludge and it was a whole like mystery, and they had to find, like, the company was the big bad company, and they were getting, they were diluting and poisoning people with the waters. And obviously that's a little more, well, no, it's not, because this is a what did you call it? You said it's a polyvinyl.
Yeah, it's polyvinyl chloride. It's PVC. It's literally something that you're supposed to have in your home that doesn't corrode. So imagine polyvinyl chloride, PVC, takes centuries to break down. And when it does, it causes great greenhouse emissions because it's made out of a petroleum-based product. It's
bad. All right. Well, look, we need to speak up. If you guys can out there, ever have an opportunity, let someone know. That's, again, like I said, don't assume. It's just, don't assume, I think that's the thing. I think people like tend to be complacent and whatever. It's good to speak up. Doesn't mean you have to stop collecting Funko. Clearly, I'm not stopping. I'll slow down.
But if you are a fan of Funko,
it's fine.
It's smart. Listen, holding the brand that you love accountable to do better is important.
Yes.
Imagine what we're doing for the, what we do with the WJ and SAG After Strike. It shows that you stand for something. You have a belief system. You can do that with the products that you do. There are companies that have made, we had Lego last week. Lego doesn't make all the right choices. They've made mistakes.
No one does.
I always make the joke, Lego was offered at one time to buy Minecraft, and they just passed. They just didn't find any interest in it. And so Microsoft bought them. And when Microsoft bought them, now Lego has to pay for the license to make those bricks, which they would have had free money at that point because it would have all been theirs.
That's the most ironic story, because Microsoft made their company by going to computer companies like IBM and Apple, and there was no Dell back then, but IBM, Apple, and other ones that were around there, and saying, we want to keep the software, we want to license it to you. And that's how, and everyone laughed. I still love like the documentaries and stuff like that, which I won't name and whatever, but everyone laughed and was like, yeah, keep your software, keep your license. We'll take it. They didn't think it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And Microsoft became for a while, was the biggest company on the planet because of it. And so talk about a full circle moment where they did it again. It's just great.
Oh man. I love that. Listen, Children's Hospital is one of the most amazing organizations. They're doing God's work. They're just doing a great job. And knowing how they're taking care of our family, my kid, by all means, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And what I was going to say earlier with the Harry Potter, sorry, go
ahead. You finish up.
I was going to say with the Harry Potter thing I talked about earlier, and I delved into like the game. You could easily, and I think he's a good person from what I've heard, you could get Daniel Radcliffe or someone to come out and sign those Funkos at children's hospitals. Like they love that stuff. Like Mark Hamill is a huge person that stops by hospitals. Robert Downey Jr. does the Iron Man arms for kids with amputees, and like it's amazing. And so you really could have made a beautiful thing out of it, or at least done it like, if you're going to dump it as well and you can't get rid of 30, I mean, it's an insurmountable amount of Funkos. Do something along the lines of it to like brighten someone's day, instead of just putting out a release being like, we had to do it. Sorry. And yeah, whatever. We got to wrap, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Should we talk really before we go? Speaking of products that, don't make us go to the landfill for it.
And exclusivity, because we're not going to overdo it.
Tomorrow, I didn't even know until you told me. What is tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Batman Day. September the 16th is Batman Day. We're not going to talk about movies or anything like that, but if you go to your local comic book shop, there are actually 3 Batman Day specific comics. They're Batman #1s. I think one is a prelude. One is like a Batman Joker comic. So it's definitely worth it. But on top of that, you can own some amazing Batman merchandise that will not be going to a landfill anytime soon. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah.
Nerdy Kick's new Batman and Joker inspired shoe that's so detailed, you'll relive all your childhood memories. Because on one side, you have the Bat, inspired by old school comics and the classic gray, black, and yellow fused with this eye-catching bat design. But blessing your other foot are the Jokers, riddled with the ha-has. With their bold and vibrant shades of green, purple, and red, it instantly captures the essence of Joker's personality. You do not want to miss the opportunity to cop yours, so do so in the link in bio.
Had to do it. Sorry.
No, it's funny because I thought like my mouth moved fast. What a surprise. My mouth moved faster than my brain. And when you said Yassine, I was like, did you just call me Yassine? Then like the video went up and I was like, that's not my cue to talk. It's Yassine. So amazing video made by Yassine. And yeah, scan the QR code if you're interested. You want to check them out. No pressure. Go, it's another collaboration with Shoebaker. And
another cool thing, they're pre-ordered. So you order them so they know what stock to build, and then they're going to have a limited stock after. Another suggestion, Funko. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Less is more, guys. Less is more. So yeah, that's our little plug for that. But aside from that,
yeah,
I think we're great show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, enjoy Batman Day tomorrow. Go to your local comic book shop, show some support. They're probably going to have some cool things there along with those free Batman comics. I always say whenever there's an event like that where they're giving free comics, get not only yourself, but get people who need.
Yeah.
Get that kid that's struggling with reading to the comic book shop to get their free copy. You'll never know. I always say it this way. I don't have it where I can grab it right now, but my Superman, the Death of Superman comic book was what got me down my road of nerddom and to reading. And, as a 9-year-old kid who was struggling, it meant the world to me. So
I think we both just froze. Oh, there's a giveaway we're doing. Sorry. It's like, are we doing something? Wink, wink. So the bullpen is putting together a really nice giveaway. I think we're still figuring out the details exactly because it's been moving. So, but stop by the bullpen, check out, Ken, for those who know, Ken is our comic book editor in chief. He is fantastic. He also does Turn a Page on Tuesday nights at 8. Got a nice little plug for that as well. But go through, check it out. They're doing a really cool giveaway. And we're going to kind of, have some more details for you there. And I'm caught off guard because last I checked, and Nerd Initiative is getting bigger and bigger. We were still finalizing the details. So I'm kind of giving time if someone wants to comment and say what those details are. Or otherwise we can look it up. It's fine.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll have more. Go watch Turn a Page on Tuesday to know the details because we're going to pass it on to Ken. That's how you're going to find out.
And there you go.
Yep.
But yes, lots of giveaways happen at Nerd Initiative. We still have, what worst comes to worst, the catch-all of alls is contact us. Scan the QR code, just share your name and your email address. We have currently a Tom Welling signed Smallville photo, which is running through, I'm looking at the date right now, through September. And that will be that giveaway. And then for October, I already have some really cool ideas for that giveaway. But so yeah, Tom Welling, SWOW authenticated autographed photo. So that's a Superman giveaway. And then we're also in the works of putting together a really nice Batman giveaway. If you see me looking over, I'm looking to see if I find more details because I've been inundated with notes right now. But yeah, Ken and the bullpen and the team are always doing amazing stuff. So check them out. And worst comes to worst, nerdinitiative.com, or just scan the contact us and reach out to us and ask us questions or submit your name and be entered in giveaways. And That's the easiest way to make sure you don't miss anything.
Yep. But be sure to join with us in 2 weeks. September 29th is going to be our last episode for season 2. We're finally wrapping up, rounding into a nice 12 episode seasons, which it kind of works because we didn't talk about this the last episode, but we have been now doing this for over a year. We missed our 1 year anniversary. No cake, no celebration. But it was it's a milestone for us. And then we'll be then going to New York Comic-Con in October. And so be sure to check that out, because again, we have our panel with John Caglione on Saturday, October 14th at the Javits Center in room 1C03 at 6 p.m., which is going to be great. Mayron has been willing to sponsor and provide some items to give away, as well as doing a special promotion that day where they are going to be providing the exact kit of items that John will be using to help our buddy Nelly the Genie make his Joker cosplay outfit. So be sure to check that out, to be there.
And I found it, by the way. So
Okay.
Sorry, finish. Batman on top of Batman on top of Batman on top of Batman. But go ahead, please. Finish. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just killed the mood. Apologies.
No, you're fine.
Boom, there it is. Batman Day contest. So, apologies, Ken. You're gonna kill me. We are, basically our my mind is completely brain dead at this point. So apologies. But yeah, so let us know, reach out. What the contest basically is very simple. What should be the next run to cover on Turn a Page? And if you guys don't know about Turn a Page, essentially Ken and company, it's a really an amazing show. They just kind of go over a run of comics. They've done Secret Invasion, they've done Court of Owls. It's really fluid, really well organized, and they talk about not only the synopsis, what their favorite moments are, what could be changed, behind the scenes stories. So they want to know. Let us know. Reach out to them and let us know what they should cover. And if you do, you could win a nice gift for Batman Day.
And those are some great storylines as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely cool. So with that said, I'm going to try to get this off of my face real quick. There we go. With that said, we are going to go ahead and wrap up this evening. Again, please be sure to check us out for our season finale in 2 weeks. Check out that panel at C2E2 at New York Comic-Con. And as always, Michael, it's been wonderful.